Hello, everyone watching. I just had a virtual fitting today, so I thought I would just make use of getting dressed. I kind of like these virtual fittings better. Like, I only get paid for like 2 hours, and I'm spending like 2.5 hours just on the commute. So I kind of like being able to do this fitting from the comfort of my own home. It only took like 10-15 minutes. But that's not what this video is about. I wanted to talk about abortion, which is everyone's favorite topic. I don't know if you watched the news lately, but Texas has passed a heartbeat bill that basically makes abortion illegal after a heartbeat, which is basically just cardiac tissue contracting. It's not a heart yet at this point, but like after 6 weeks. If you're not familiar with pregnancy and like embryo development, the way that the weeks are described, the way that the weeks are defined is your first day of pregnancy is the first day of your last period. You don't really ovulate until about 2 weeks after the first day of your first period. So the first day of your pregnancy is like usually around 2 weeks before conception or fertilization, but I just hate how that sounds. So if you're 6 weeks pregnant, then conception happened 4 weeks prior. And conception does not mean you're pregnant. Pregnancy starts at implantation, which is like a week after conception. So when you're 6 weeks pregnant, when you're 6 weeks pregnant, the embryo, at this point it's an embryo, has only been implanted for about 3 weeks. And at this point, you probably don't even know that you are pregnant, if you are. And the doctors can't really confirm until about 8 or 9 weeks. Before that is just it's just too early to really know. So what this law that's passed has done has basically made abortion illegal if this goes through. I think there's still time to repeal this. All throughout the southeastern United States, basically in Republican strongholds, there are a lot of laws that make accessing abortion very difficult. And what I wanted to talk about is why do Republicans overwhelmingly want abortion to be inaccessible to women? Well, the short answer is demographics. Most people who vote Republican are white, and the United States is becoming increasingly less and less white. So Republicans are concerned that their future base is shrinking. So they're legislating to make things like abortion harder to access because they're afraid that their future voting base, they're afraid that they're going to become obsolete in the future. When you do the median age of different groups of people, the average white person's in their 40s, like the average Black person and Asian person is like 27, and the average Latinx person is 9. So that's just showing where this country is going demographically. And Republicans have, their whole strategy has been playing on the racial fears of white people, the fear that Black people are going to be taking their hard-earned tax money popping out baby after baby, or all of these illegals, all these uh, illegals, undocumented people who are largely Latinx are coming, and it's gonna change the demographics of the United States. White people are afraid of becoming a minority, and that's why Republicans are trying to make it more difficult to access reproductive health. And you might think, well, doesn't this affect all women? Yeah, that is true. If you're a Black woman, especially of reproductive age, you might have experienced how uh, pregnancy and childbirth is stigmatized on you, how there's fears of Black women having baby after baby irresponsibly and using welfare and all of that stuff. We're more likely to be encouraged to have our tubes tied or maybe even get a hysterectomy than after having children than a white woman is. If you're watching this and you're a Black woman who's had children, I'd like to know if you've ever been pressured to get your tubes tied or had that suggested to you after maybe one child or two children. I'm really interested in that. That's kind of how they offset how these abortion restrictions will affect not only white women and who will have the white babies who will more than likely vote Republican, because also most white people vote Republican. It's more than 50%. This is mostly in the southeastern United States, which places like Alabama and Mississippi with large Black populations, or Texas, which with large Mexican American populations. So yeah, it's not only white women who will be having their reproductive access affected. Another reason, this is all politics, is like the culture war. When it comes to things like economics, like funding schools, raising the minimum wage, people agree with doing those things across political ideology. It's the cultural things that we disagree with, like religion, like keeping the church and state separate. That's something that's more divisive, and a lot of people are pro-life for religious reasons. So even if they disagree with a Republican in every other instance, they might vote Republican simply because of their stance on abortion. And any of you who might be listening might be pro-life for religious reasons, which is fine. But the problem comes with you enforcing your religious beliefs on other people who may not hold those religious beliefs. Me, myself, I am pro-choice. I believe forcing someone to continue with a pregnancy that they do not want is cruel. Pregnancy changes your body permanently. It's very risky. And I don't think someone should have to go through with that unless they really wanted to. Another thing that I think is cruel is trying to justify forced pregnancy as a punishment for having sex outside of a marriage for the purpose of procreation. Not everybody wants to do that. If that's what you believe in doing, fine, I don't care. But I don't think that's right to force that on another person. And also the idea that life begins at conception, it's just not backed up by science. If that's what your faith tells you, okay, but it's not backed up by science. It's just not. Until about 24 weeks, a fetus can't live on its own. So it is depending on the person who's pregnant for its life. I don't think it's fair for a person to be used in that way if they don't want to be used in that way. Of course, pregnancy is always a risk from penis and vagina sex, but leaving the house, there's always the risk of spraining your ankle. But leaving the house does not mean you wanted your ankle to be sprained any more than having sex means you wanted to get pregnant. Pregnancy and childbirth should not be a punishment for having sex outside of marriage. That's all I have to say for today. I would like to know your thoughts. I know this is a very sensitive topic. If you're disrespectful in the comments, I'll just delete you. That's it. Actually, that's not it. I also wanted to link to some resources for abortion and other reproductive care, especially in the Southeast, where there's all these different laws and regulations that make access to abortion damn near impossible, like the Yellowhammer Fund in Alabama and ARC Southeast, which is the Southeast for the Southeast in general. And also, I want to link to blackdoulas.org. If you didn't know, Black women are more likely than white women to die due to pregnancy and childbirth complications. And having a doula decreases those odds. Did you know pregnancy can fucking kill you? Another reason why forced pregnancy is unethical. Toodles.